Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Lori. I wanted to do a video today on multidimensionality and being our multidimensionality. What does that mean? How do we do it? Are we doing it? And how do we get conscious about this? This is a message that's been coming in the last couple of days as I've been watching my own journey and my own process. And so I wanted to share with you what was coming through. So, multidimensionality, being multidimensional, is what we are doing in every now moment, whether we are conscious of it or not, whether we are aware of it or not, okay? So we are standing in a physical form, and we are anchored down into a third dimensional consciousness or a third dimensional field, okay? Maybe a fourth dimensional field for some of us. And what that means is that our reality that our physical form is standing in exists in the spectrum of consciousness that is within the third dimensional field or the fourth dimensional field. So when we are walking about in our day, the physicality of us is looking out and seeing a 3D reality. However, because we are quantum and because we live in a quantum world, everything and anything exists around us. It's a matter of spinning our energy within us and shifting our own physical form in order to be able to tap into the other consciousnesses and dimensional fields that are around us. The way that you and I tap into dimensional fields that are around us in the quantum field is by vibrating into that field. So we are shifting our own energetic vibration high enough to tap into the 4D field, the 5D field. When I say field, I mean dimension. Okay, and a dimension, again, is a spectrum of consciousness, right? And when you step into that field or when you access that field of consciousness, there is a spectrum of consciousness that you start to be in. You experience it, right? And so here we are standing in a 3D form, right? Maybe a 4D form. I keep saying maybe 4D form because a lot of us have anchored our physical forms into a 4D field. When you're anchored into a specific dimensional field, what that means is that your reality, what you are looking at and seeing, how you are responding to the world is within that dimensional field. So if you are anchored in a 3D field, you are going to be looking out into a 3D consciousness, right? If you're anchored into a 4D field, you're going to be looking out and responding to a 4D consciousness. The energy inside your physical form, however, may be spinning faster than what your physical form has anchored down into. So you may be spinning pretty fast inside your physical form, accessing 5D consciousness, 6D consciousness, right? Accessing it meaning tapping into the quantum space and those dimensional fields around you, thus experiencing it within you. But the physical form hasn't been able to anchor it yet and hold it at all times. So you're not anchored into that reality in every now moment, okay? Most of us are anchored into the 3D consciousness, so in every now moment we are experiencing 3D consciousness. However, our energy within our physical forms is shifting. It's vibrating faster and faster and faster. So we're all of a sudden tapping into all these other consciousnesses, these dimensional fields, okay? So the way we start to access and experience and observe our multidimensionality is that we recognize that we are standing in a physical form anchored in whatever dimension we're anchored in. And yet around us is the 3D consciousness. You can imagine it as like a cloud, the 4D consciousness beyond that, and the 5D consciousness beyond that. Now, of course, in the quantum, there's all these other fields of consciousness or dimensional fields, okay? But I'm only talking about the third, fourth, and fifth because that is really what we are stepping into, becoming, and being in, okay? So that is what I'm going to be talking about. So when you are standing and walking in every now moment, getting up, getting your coffee, going to work, talking to friends, with your loved ones, you know, whatever you're doing, reading a book, running, exercising, right? You are in that quantum field. So you are experiencing yourself in a 3D consciousness while you are accessing 4D and 5D fields. And when you access those fields, what that means is that you are tapping into it energetically because your physical form is energetically vibrating at that 5D field, at that 5D consciousness. And when you do that, you're walking around and you're feeling more expanded. You're feeling like you're in a flow state. You are feeling moments of not controlling anything, letting everything just be. You're recognizing that you're allowing the higher self to move through you, not the ego. You're very aware of your ego, right? 5D consciousness is looking around and recognizing that every human is sovereign and divine and perfect just as they are. You are in a very now moment state, right? And so for many of us, we tap into that 5D consciousness throughout our day, maybe for 5 seconds, right? Or maybe 5 minutes, maybe 2 hours. It kind of depends on the frequency that you're holding inside your physical form, okay? The higher in vibration you are in your physical form, the longer you're going to be staying in that 5D consciousness, okay? So we're all on our own unique paths in terms of what vibration we're holding. And of course, as you know, with the ascension process, it's like this, up and down, up and down, up and down, right? So you're expanding into higher frequencies and then contracting back down into a lower frequency and then expanding up and then contracting back down, right? So to hold a 5D consciousness for a couple of hours, meaning that you're walking around in your day and you're noticing, wow, I am being in a 5D consciousness more and more and more. That's your multi-dimensionality. And what happens is that you start to recognize how often you're in that 5D consciousness compared to a 3D consciousness, right? Or the 4D consciousness. The 4D consciousness is where we are starting to become aware of this matrix that we're in, the 3D matrix. We start to become aware of our physical form and what it needs and what it's asking of us. The emotions that we're moving through us, the emotions that we're purging, our thoughts, our paradigms, our programming, all of it. Awareness is key in 4D consciousness. You start to think that you're going crazy. You start to separate from friends, relationships, jobs, situations, all these things, right? Your life starts to shift dramatically in 4D. So when you are being multidimensional in every now moment walking around, the way you recognize that you're in a 4D consciousness is you'll start to recognize yourself in a relationship or a friendship or a situation that you've always been in, and all of a sudden you're not feeling the same. You're not resonating the same. You're wanting to separate perhaps or take more time away from that person, or the person calls and you don't really feel like having the conversation, right? Or you're feeling yourself needing to be in quiet, in solitude, in peace. You're feeling yourself wanting to sit more, wanting to meditate more. You're watching yourself desiring to go into that fourth energy center more and more. There's all these things that start to happen in the 4D field. You're starting to watch yourself want to connect to the higher self more and more. Where is my higher self? I want to hear my higher self, right? When you tap into that 5D consciousness, you're aligned with the higher self. So there's no more questioning of, am I hearing my higher self? Where is my higher self, right? And I'm talking about these consciousnesses, these fields, not as, oh, this is better than this, right? There's no such thing as better than. 3D is not better than 5D, right? It just is a separate expression of itself. It's a separate consciousness. Okay, so there's no good or bad, like, oh my God, I should be in 5D more. I want to be in 5D more. The only reason we want to be in 5D more is because it feels better and we live in duality. We are still in a third dimensional consciousness, right? So in that third dimensional consciousness, you're still experiencing duality. So it's like, oh, I want to feel better. I want to be in a higher frequency. I want to raise my vibration. By having those thoughts, you're still stuck in duality. Nothing wrong with that. But when you say to yourself, I want to be in a higher vibration. I want to be in a higher state of consciousness. I want to feel better. I want to feel this. I want to feel that. That's duality, right? When you are in present moment and just saying whatever is just is, and I'm accepting it, knowing that it is always for my highest good, that is being in a fourth dimensional consciousness, and that is actually being in a fifth dimensional consciousness. When you are actually able to surrender to everything that is in the now moment, without judgment, without criticism, without critiquing it, without labeling it, you're in a much higher consciousness, right? Now again, there's nothing wrong with any consciousness that you find yourself in, but start to observe. Right? The 3D consciousness is going to tell you, your ego is going to tell you, you need to be in 5D. Oh, that's my ego. I'm in 3D consciousness. And then when you're in 3D consciousness and wanting to be in 5D consciousness, you're going to get frustrated that you're in 3D consciousness, right? So you want to start to step into that 4D consciousness by watching yourself live in duality. Oh my God, look at, I'm judging. Oh my God, look at, I want to be in a higher frequency. Oh my God, look at, my ego's telling me to do these things, right? The ego is the director. It's the one that's telling you that you need to be doing this and that and this and that, all these things, right? And it's like, oh, what if I just let go? What if I just move into that 4D consciousness? 4D consciousness is reminding me that all is well. and that I can just relax into present moment state, that I'm always being moved into the next highest version of me, regardless of the rattling around of my life and how chaotic it may look and how stressful I may feel, right? I'm still standing rooted into a 3D consciousness. So I'm still going to be experiencing 3D consciousness. I can't escape from the 3D consciousness, even if you are rooted down and anchored into a 4D field. If your physical form is anchored into a 4D field, you're still going to be experiencing 3D consciousness. We can't escape the 3D. We have to learn to be in it, and we have to learn to separate ourselves from it by becoming the observer, okay? So in every now moment when you're walking around, you are a quantum multi-dimensional being. You are tapping into 5D consciousness in one moment, 4D consciousness in one moment, 3D consciousness in many now moments, right? But the desire or the intention is to become aware. Okay, I'm multidimensional. I'm getting into my car, and in this now moment, I feel pretty good. I feel like I'm centered. I'm in my body. I'm in my breath. And then you start to drive your car, and you start to recognize how you're being with other humans, and you can notice: am I in a 4D consciousness, and am I in a 5D consciousness? Why is this important? This is important because you are learning and becoming the observer of your conscious ascension process. So you're not numbing out. You're not the victim. You are not saying why this, why that. You're taking control of this ascension process, meaning the ascension is natural, right? It just happens. The light comes in and the light starts to shift. You can't help that light shifting. The light just comes in. You can't do anything about that, and you can't increase that light shifting. In you, spinning in you, right? It's natural. The light comes in, the light starts to spin fast and fast and faster, faster and faster. And then you watch as your body needs to purge certain things, as emotions come up, thoughts come up, beliefs come up that are inside and held, that are being pushed out by that light, right? So that's what you can be in control of, even though you're really not in control of it. You're on the river flowing, right? You're letting yourself move through the river. As the light comes in, you're not controlling that. As the light spins, you're not controlling that, right? And you're just watching as things are being pushed out of you. You're observing it, letting it come up and letting it go, right? Then you're starting to watch yourself in every now moment. Oh my God, how am I being? Because what happens to a lot of us is we start to ask ourselves, or we start to demand and want ourselves to be in a higher state than where we are right now. And all that's doing is taking you out of your now moment. It's taking you out of the now presence multidimensionality aspect of you. When you are looking outside and trying to get somewhere, you're missing the journey and the process of being in the present moment state, allowing yourself to be multidimensional, right? You're escaping out of it. So stay present in your now moment. Stay in the now as much as you can. And when you're in the now, how am I feeling? How am I resonating? And start to think of these three sort of fields of consciousness around you. Oh, 3 hours ago, I was feeling very 3D consciousness at, the 3D field. I was playing in that consciousness. Right now, as I'm jogging or running or walking, I can feel expanded. I'm tapping into that 5D consciousness, right? Which means that your body is holding that frequency. So your body can hold a high frequency, which is the 5D consciousness, and it can hold the 3D consciousness, right? This is what it's doing during the anchoring process. This is what's happening. That's why we all feel crazy. There are moments where our body is vibrating in a 3D field, and there are moments where it's in a 4D field, and moments where it's in a 5D field. No wonder we think we're going nuts, right? 1 second you're in a 5D field, your body's vibrating in a 5D field. The next minute you're vibrating in a 3D field. How does that happen? It's just your body acclimating, assimilating, and anchoring the light that's coming in. That's all. And so in every now moment, you're going to feel different until you're anchored into 5D consciousness, which means that you are holding a 5D consciousness within your form at all times. You're going to be doing this. And 99.9% of us are not anchored in a 5D consciousness yet. We're tapping into it more and more, meaning we're vibrating in it more and more. We're able to hold that vibration more and more. But you have to recognize and remember, to hold a 5D consciousness at all times in a 3D field is extremely difficult. It is extremely challenging. You have to be courageous. You have to be open, surrendered, trusting. You have to do whatever it is your higher self is asking you to do without trepidation, without resistance, without fear, right? I mean, there's all these ways of being in the 5D consciousness that can be very frightening in the beginning as we start to step into the 5D field, right? So it's not just vibrating in a 5D consciousness and feeling this unity and this love and all of this bliss and joy. It's also being in it, which means that when your higher self tells you to move, you move, even if you have nowhere to go. If your higher self says this relationship is over, it is time to end the contract, and you have no idea how, why, what, you follow, right? When your higher self says to you, get in the car and drive to this town, you do it. That's being in 5D consciousness, right? When you're in 5D consciousness, you are recognizing and constantly watching the observer perspective with neutrality all the time. That's very challenging. So we all want to be in 5D consciousness. We're all making our way to 5D consciousness. We are all tapping into that 5D consciousness throughout our day. But we have a long ways to go in terms of holding that 24/7. And we have to be gentle with ourselves. We have to be compassionate with ourselves. It is extremely challenging stepping into our multidimensionality. But the way that we can ease into it is to be aware, is to observe, is to watch. Watch your awesome, beautiful humanness right now. Watch your humanness. Try to navigate or absolutely navigate this multidimensionality that you're playing in every now moment. 1 second you're in 3D, 1 second you're in 4D, 1 second you're in 5D, boom, down to 3D, right? It's just this constant ebb and flow of energy right now. Constant ebb and flow of energy inside the physical form. So, coming back to the original statement in the beginning, when you are walking around in your physical form in every now moment, watch how you are also in the quantum field. You've got dimensions around you that you are naturally shifting into inside your body, which allows you to tap into that field that you can't see in the quantum realm. And the more and more you allow your body to shift, the more you're going to be able to be in that 5D consciousness more and more and more. So meaning you're going to be able to hold it in your day longer, okay? But it requires a massive amount of awareness, compassion, and love. Get aware in every now moment. What consciousness am I playing in? And don't beat yourself up. Don't judge it. Don't get upset with you. When I am in a 3D, deep 3D consciousness, right? Anxiety, whatever it is that I may feel, I'm just watching. I'm in it. It's uncomfortable, but I'm watching myself. I'm watching. I'm not saying I want to get out of this. I do say I want to get out of this, but I don't force myself out of it. I'm in the river. It's an uncomfortable space sometimes when I'm in the river and I'm being pushed up against the rocks, right? I'm bumping up against these rocks and it's extremely uncomfortable, right? But I'm in the river and I'm moving. I'm flowing. And even though I may not have any control over things in terms of the human personality, the ego wants to control, and I'm saying, let go, ego, let myself just flow through this. You pop out. And the next thing you know, you're back into a higher frequency. You're back into tapping into that 4 and 5D consciousness. But when you're floating down the river, feeling any sort of stress, anxiety, worry, concern, fears, right? And you're trying to fight it and kick the rocks or hold on to the rocks, right? Like, no, this isn't how it's supposed to go. No, this isn't how I want it. No, 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 no. This isn't right. This isn't right. This isn't right. That's the ego. And that's the programming of the human, afraid of the change, afraid of what's coming, afraid of it all, right? So you want to let go and trust that it's all moving. You're not stuck in anything. It's always going to be moving. And the more you can just let go and breathe and just say, okay, I'm just going to do my best to move through this. And the next thing you know, you find yourself almost birthed out of that kind of rapid in the river. And you're back into that space again. You're always multidimensional. Back into that space, meaning that space where you feel aligned and connected and centered and tapping into 4 and 5D consciousness, right? So it's important to not beat yourself up wherever you are, no matter what. The river you're on holds all these dimensions. And you're doing an absolute amazing, courageous job by continuing to allow yourself to shift. This is not a walk in the park. This is not easy in any way, shape, or form. And the more conscious we become of this, it can be even more challenging at times because we are becoming so aware of what we're doing that then we start to go crazy, right? Even imagine walking around now. So you watch this video and you turn the video off and you start to walk around in your day, and you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, what field of consciousness am I tapping into, right? And so when you do that, please try not to judge, try not to compare, try not to beat yourself up. Remember, when you do that, you are holding yourselves in this matrix, in this dualistic matrix. And there is other consciousness that you're tapping into that will allow you to experience your multidimensionality with ease and grace. The other thing, really quickly before I go, about tapping into and experiencing your multidimensionality in every now moment. First of all, remember that in 1 minute, you're going to be in 3D consciousness. 3 minutes later, you may be in 5D consciousness. 10 minutes later, you may be back into 3D consciousness. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. This is how it goes. This is how we flow. This is how the energy moves. You don't just hold 5D consciousness 24/7. Let that belief go. Let that thought go. It ain't going to happen. And if you think that and try to make that happen and force that to happen, you're going to get frustrated. You're going to have suffering. You're going to struggle. If you can relax into the fact that 1 minute I'm going to be in 3D, 1 minute I'll be in 5D, 1 minute I'll be in 4D, and it may be in every single minute. What if you just allow that to be? What if you just allow yourself to be in that, right? Okay, great. 1 minute it's 5D, 1 minute it's 4D, 1 minute it's 3D, boom. There you go. Okay? So practice that. Don't beat yourself up. Watch yourself in every now moment as you're walking around and just be the observer. Just be the observer, right? Observe. It's fascinating and it's miraculous what we're doing, what you're doing, right? Shifting consciousness and form, there's no handbook for it. And it is a roller coaster ride, and it is being put into the washing machine, and you're now going through the spin cycle. And because it is energy, you can't control it, right? Just like you can't control your hair growing. Your hair is just going to grow. It's just going to grow. Let it be. Let it grow the way it's going to grow. Now, of course, there's all these tools and ways that you can make it a little bit easier, and you can make it a little more graceful, right? You can learn techniques and tools. But with the multidimensionality aspect of us, of who we are designed to be able to live in multiple dimensions. We're designed to tap into multiple dimensions, right? And as we start increasing our frequency more and more into that 5D field, what's going to happen is the light codes within the DNA that you brought in as a light being, I'll say that again, the light codes that are held within the 12 strands of DNA inside your physical form that you brought in as a light being when you came into the physical form are going to naturally start to activate, which will allow you to more easily be in that 5D consciousness, which means that you will be able to hear more, see more, feel more, receive more, right? Your innate abilities, your multi-dimensional abilities, which are held in the light codes that you brought in, that are held within the DNA, that is naturally activating, expanding, and opening from 2 strands to 12 strands, from carbon to crystal, right? The reason it's going from carbon to crystal is because carbon is the way that the DNA strands were able to hold the light codes in 3D physicality, in a carbon base. And as that light shifts within the DNA, because all DNA is light codes. That's all it is. It's not genes, it's not cells, it's light codes. It's frequencies. And so as they start to increase their vibration, why? Because we are increasing the vibration in physical form by receiving more light. What happens is those light codes then begin to activate, and they separate into what they've always been designed to be, which is 12 strands. And within those 12 strands, they hold all thousands and thousands and thousands of light codes that allow you to step into your multidimensionality. You don't have to do anything. This naturally happens. One day you won't be able to see anything. The next day you'll start seeing frequency lights around you. One day you weren't able to hear anything. The next day you'll start to hear things like your higher self or your the guides around you or whatever that is, right? It's all natural. It's all happening. All you have to do is just be aware. Have compassion for yourself. Love for yourself. Give yourself a big fat hug right now that you're doing it. I remember who I am. I remember who I am. I remember that I'm a being of light. I remember who I am. I remember I am a being of light in physical form, and I love you. I love you for being as courageous as you are. In all your humanness, in all your human journey, you're doing an amazing job. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. I love you all so much. Just a quick short video about multidimensionality. I hope you enjoy it. Like the video. If you liked it, subscribe if you haven't been subscribing to my channel yet. I'm doing live Q&As every other Tuesday. And I will see you back here soon. Lots of love.